All right, let's talk about what might just be the single most important sentence in any academic essay, the thesis statement. Seriously, if you get this one sentence right, you can turn a bunch of scattered ideas into a really powerful, focused argument. So let's dive in. Have you ever had that feeling? You start writing an essay, and you just feel kind of lost? I mean, you've done the research, you've got some ideas floating around, but you don't really have a clear destination. Your paragraphs just sort of wander, and your main point gets totally buried. Without a clear direction, you and your reader are basically just adrift. So, how do you fix that? Well, that's where the thesis statement comes in. You should think of it as the GPS for your essay. It's a single sentence that lays out your central idea, telling your reader exactly what's coming and, just as importantly, keeping your own writing locked right on target. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll talk about why a thesis is your essay's North Star. Then we'll clear up what it isn't. After that, we'll look at the anatomy of a strong thesis, get into the nitty-gritty of crafting an argument, and we'll wrap up with a checklist you can use to test your own. Okay, first up, why do we call it the North Star? Well, a great thesis has this really important dual purpose. It's a tool for you, the writer, and it's also a guide for your reader. So for you, as the writer, it's your blueprint. It helps you plan your essay structure, organize all your paragraphs, and make sure that every single point you make is working towards one unified goal. And for your reader, it's a signpost. Right away, it tells them the main idea, it guides them through your argument, and it makes the subject and the focus of your paper crystal clear. But to really get what a thesis is, it's just as important to understand what it isn't. And honestly, this is where so many writers get tripped up. So let's be super clear. A thesis statement is not just a title, like the issue of self-driving cars. It's also not an announcement, like, in this paper, I will discuss self-driving cars. And this one is absolutely crucial. It is not a simple statement of fact, like Alaska became a state in 1959. Why? Because you can't argue with a fact. It's a dead end for an essay. You can really see the evolution here, from a weak starting point to a strong thesis. A title is way too vague. A fact is just, well, a fact. But a real thesis, like self-driving cars are safer because they eliminate human error, now that is an argument. It takes a specific, debatable position and it tells you why. That's exactly what you're aiming for. So, what's the secret sauce? What gives a thesis statement that kind of power? Let's break down the anatomy of a really strong one. It all boils down to 3 essential characteristics. Every single strong thesis has these 3 things going for it: a clear main idea, a clear purpose, and really clear wording. Let's dig into each of those. Okay, characteristic number 1 is all about getting past the topic. It's not enough to just say what your essay is about. Your thesis has to tell us what you're going to say about that topic. It's your specific angle, your unique take on it. Take a look at this amazing example from historian Bruce Catton. He doesn't just say, my essay is about Grant and Lee. No way! He argues that they actually represented conflicting currents in America. As a reader, you immediately know this isn't just a simple biography. It's a deep analysis of these 2 men as symbols of much bigger historical forces. Second, your thesis has to communicate its purpose. What are you trying to do here? Are you just expressing a feeling? Are you trying to inform someone? Or are you trying to persuade them? A good thesis makes this obvious right from the get-go. And for most academic writing, that purpose is going to be persuasion. And finally, we've got clarity and precision. Your thesis needs to be direct. You've got to avoid vague words or overly complicated jargon. And please never ever write something like, the thesis of this essay is. Just come out and state your argument directly. So this brings us right to the heart of academic writing, which is all about crafting an argument. See, an informative essay just presents facts, but an argumentative essay uses those facts to actually persuade the reader of something. And your thesis is where all of that persuasion kicks off. Just look at how the purpose changes everything, even when the topic is the same. An expressive thesis states a feeling, an informative one states a known fact. But the persuasive thesis, it takes a stand. It proposes a very specific, debatable solution: renovate abandoned city buildings. Now, someone could reasonably disagree with that idea, and that's exactly what makes it a solid argument. So here's the bottom line. An argumentative thesis is not neutral. It has a backbone. It makes a claim that is strong, that is reasonable, and, most importantly, that you can actually defend with evidence and logic in the rest of your essay. Okay, enough theory. Let's get really practical. I'm going to show you a tool that you can use, like right now, to diagnose and seriously improve your own thesis statements. Think of this flowchart like a doctor for your thesis. You start at the top. Does it express your main idea? If the answer is yes, great, move on. If it's no, the chart points you to the problem. Maybe it's just a title, or maybe it's an announcement, and then it tells you how to fix it. It's basically a step-by-step guide to a much stronger argument. And before you even think about writing the body of your essay, run your thesis through this final 5-point check. Is it one complete sentence? Does it show your purpose? Does it actually fit the assignment? Is your main idea crystal clear? And does it give a little hint about how you're going to organize the paper? If you can say yes to all 5, you are good to go. So let's end with this. Please don't think of the thesis statement as some final chore you have to finish before you can really start writing. Think of it as the starting pistol for a race. It isn't the end of your thinking, it's the very beginning of your argument. So what are you going to argue next?